Hi, I'm Alex Stutchbury and welcome to ARTClass, a series of videos teaching you the key skills needed to create great art. Today I'm going to teach you the basics of how to use watercolour paint. Here are the objectives.
Can I create a tonal range with watercolour paints to make an image look 3D? And can I refine my painting using the reduction and smudging methods?
Now with this video, I'm going to show you how to create full tonal ranges. So it's not going to be creating pictures which are going to be 100% realistic in terms of colour, but they will have a full tonal range going from highlights to mid-tones to shadows. And by using all of those, you can create a 3D looking image. And we're going to use either warm or cool colours. I'll show you both examples. Doesn't matter which image you want to use. We can use this one, which is a still life of some fruit. So first thing you need to do is sketch it out or grid it up with the grid line method, and then we're ready to start.
So if you're using the grid method, once you've plotted all your points and drawn all of the key aspects in, do remember to rub out the grid lines. You don't want any of those showing through under the paint. When it comes to using a tonal range in colour, use either cool or warm colours for this first one. You could use cool colours going from a light green to a kind of mid blue and dark blue, almost purple, or use a warm colour tonal range going from yellow to a mid-tone orange down to a dark solid primary red. You could create a tonal range down one side of a paper first so you can refer to those colours whilst you're mixing your paints. Okay, so starting with a cool colour example, paint all of your objects in the lightest tone first, so a very pale yellowy green. What you could do though is leave a few little white bits showing so they can act as the highlights, because you want that extreme brightest highlight to contrast with the darker tones later. Once you've got your first layer on, then start mixing up a slightly darker green and apply those into the mid-tone areas. It's going to be a case with these paintings where you just build the layers up and you apply the next darkest layer on top. So as you can see here, I'm putting now a very dark bluish green as a third layer on and just bleeding the colours into one another slightly in some cases. I'll show you how to smudge later on. So layer up these colours. Always start from lightest to darkest. If you put dark on straight away, it could bleed into all of the rest of the colours and it's much harder to control. And remember, some directional shading to show the shape and curvature of each of the objects, especially around the cores of the apple in this fruit piece. So how do you make the objects look like they're sitting on a table surface? Well, what you need to do is draw a horizon line, or in this case, a table edge. And what I would suggest is put the background as a really dark colour, so your darkest tone, in this case, a really dark solid blue. By putting it on the top half of the background, above the horizon line, table edge, it allows the lighter top edges of each of the fruits to stand out. What you'd also want to do to make it look like a complete image is put a very pale base layer on the table surface as well, because that will make it look more complete than just having the white paper showing through. And then finally touch up the darkest areas, maybe putting a bit of mid-tone in to fade them more progressively into the lighter areas. And cast shadows are important. Always get those really dark, bold cast shadows underneath the objects to make them look like solid 3D forms.
So this is a pretty cool outcome. I'm going to show you a second one now using the warm colours, but I'm also going to break it down briefly and show you some specific methods and techniques to get rid of mistakes and to develop and improve your blending.
A slightly different process here. You could actually apply a base layer of the lightest tone over the whole image, but that does prevent you from keeping a few white areas for the absolute brightest highlights. But if you do it pale enough, it shouldn't matter. Then, just like before, build up slightly darker tones each time. So layer it up, but see how as I'm applying it on quickly, I then just use a little bit of water to then smudge the rest of it in. We'll see close up in a moment. So you're layering up the colours. Never jump straight to the darkest tones because it could smudge into other areas and it's hard to control. So I'm still going for mid-tone layers. Now the reduction method is a good technique to use. So for example, if I'm painting the background, the dark red background or some dark details on and I smudge a little bit, as you can see I've done on the banana, all you need to do is get a wet, clean brush and you can fade those colours back in. You can see again here, just smudge it in. So don't have any colour on your brush, just water. Smudge it across, keep cleaning the bristles. And that's how you can fade the colour out and save a mistake. So you can't make a mistake which will spoil your work. Another technique to remember, and a close up here, is the smudging technique. So you don't just layer up your colours and then leave the brush marks showing. You can put some colour on, but again, using just a little bit of water, smudge it over the lighter layers, agitating both, and it can lift the colours and blend the colours together. And then finally, as you can see here with my sped up version, my time lapse of the quick 10-minute example that I'm doing, I'm still applying all of those mid-tones, darker mid-tones and shadow tone layers on top to get that full contrast. Without the full contrast, it won't look as realistic. And finally, just to note, to make something look really successful and to really refine and add quality to your painting, you must remember, you must have neat edges. You really don't want to have any white paper showing unless you've purposefully left it for one or two bright highlights. Smooth blending where possible, and if you can't smudge all of your brush marks in, make sure the brush marks show a directional shaded curvature, and create a background horizon line because that will help frame the objects in the foreground.
Okay, so there you go. The slightly more detailed, cool colour tonal range and a very quick 10-minute warm colour one. They both have come out well. Obviously a little bit more detail on this one, but you can see how effective either of these tonal ranges are. Okay, so give it a go yourself, develop your skills and those little techniques and tricks to actually sort of help just refine it slightly and enhance your images, and I'm sure you'll produce some great results. My name's Alex Stutchbury. Goodbye.